don't look now, but the Dallas Cowboys are doing attractive things. There's still the elephant in the room by way of a looming extension on DeMarcus Lawrence, but while they work to figure that out, they're not sitting tight waiting. They waved off the first week of NFL free agency and stuck to their predictably frugal guns, but didn't about face in the second wave, and not financially. They were able to keep their purse strings taut while landing several key free agents, including wide receiver Randall Cobb and safety George Iloka, among others. Before the dust could settle on either of those signings, they finalized the parameters on a deal that will reportedly land defensive end Robert Quinn via trade with the Miami Dolphins. The terms of said deal have not yet been disclosed, because it's not official at the time this article goes to print. The expectation is the trade will land though, and that will put a lot of pressure on some defensive lineman not named Lawrence. With that, let's take a look at the current Cowboys depth chart with Quinn in tow, and dive into who catches shrapnel from that bomb finally dropping after weeks of behind-the-scene negotiations. There's progress being made, but it's not enough. For the second consecutive season, the Cowboys have franchise tagged their homegrown pass rusher after no deal was reached prior to the early March deadline. If signed, the tender will pay Lawrence nearly $20.5 million, an uptick from the $17.1 million he earned by playing under the tender in 2018. The issue is this time around he has no intention of taking on the inherent risk that comes with another tag and, as such, is virtually guaranteed to hold out until his extension lands. Both sides have until July 15 to get it done, but things can and will get messy far ahead of that deadline if the negotiations continue to drag out as they have. The latest news has the Cowboys upping their initial offer of $17 million annually to $20 million per year, but Lawrence reportedly wants around $23 million per season. The signing of Quinn has no impact on these talks though, for those who are wondering. Quinn is being brought in as a complement to Lawrence, ideally. This is another stellar offseason move by the Cowboys. A former first-round pick 14th overall for the Los Angeles Rams, Quinn played 7 seasons with the organization before heading to the Dolphins in March 2018 via trade. It was a cap move for the Rams at the time, with Quinn being on the back end of a 6-year deal signed in 2014. He's had his bumps and bruises over the course of his time in the NFL, but has been mostly durable, having been available for fewer than 15 games only twice in his 8-year career. For a more recent scope on his availability, it's key to note he's played in 31 of the Dolphins' last 32 games, a stellar statistic for one of the most bruising positions in the game. He does most of his damage on the right edge, making it paramount the Cowboys figure things out with Lawrence to continue dominating the left side as well. It's now or never for Charlton. The former first-round pick was locked in heading into Cowboys training camp in 2018, shadowing Lawrence at every conditioning turn with the goal of making huge strides in his second year as an NFL pass rusher. The club loved what they saw, and rewarded him with 106 defensive snaps in the first 2 games, wherein he delivered 6 combined tackles, 2 for a loss, a pass breakup and a sack on quarterback Eli Manning in Week 2. In that same contest, he'd recover a fumble in the third quarter that the Cowboys used to make it a 2-touchdown deficit, going on to win and balance themselves at 1-1 on the young season. His stock jumped headfirst off of a cliff not long after. As the season progressed, however, Charlton seemed to regress, with part of the reason being an injured shoulder. He'd go on to miss several games because of it, landed on the inactives list following his return with reported attitude issues, before again seeing the game day roster. He's now had surgery to repair his shoulder, but with Quinn in the mix, he'll need to repair his value with the team as well. And quickly. The club can exercise his 5th-year option in 2020, but they need to have a reason to. Crawford is hoping the NFL doesn't hand down a suspension. He was detained following a bar fight at the Coyote Ugly Saloon in Panama City, Florida on Friday, March 15, after a melee broke out that had Crawford in the middle of it, much to the chagrin of security that tried to invade his personal space time and again. There were multiple injuries reported, included a broken foot on one bar staffer. Police arrived and restrained Crawford, but no arrests were made. The league office is investigating the event, and while all the facts have not been released, including what provoked Crawford in the first place, there's a chance he sees no punishment at all. If he does, however, as a first offender it could result in a 1 or 2 game suspension, but having Quinn in the mix helps such a short-term issue. Crawford had 5.5 sacks in 2018, and was easily one of the best defensive linemen on the team. Woods burst onto the scene in 2018, and his fiery demeanor helped propel him from camp body to starting one tech. At one point during their 30-22 loss to the Los Angeles Rams, however, Woods went down with an apparent injury. He'd return to the game and finish the contest, considering what was on the line, but he wasn't his usual self. The interior bully the team has come to appreciate a need in the run game. The Rams would go on to a record-setting day on the ground against the Cowboys, ending their season, and it's since been revealed Woods played through a torn labrum. He's since undergone surgery and will be ready for camp this summer, making for a terrorizing defensive front, assuming the extension on Lawrence lands. The 2019 season will be a pivotal one for Collins. The former third-round pick has battled several injuries since being selected by the Cowboys in 2016, but battled through and subsequently did not miss a single game in his first 2 seasons, delivering 7.5 sacks that included 5 in his rookie season along with a forced fumble and a fumble recovery, despite having suffered a broken foot in OTAs that year. It was testament to both Collins' grit and resilience, both again being on display when he was available for the 2018 season opener against the Carolina Panthers after undergoing surgery to repair a broken foot 6 months prior. It's now 2019 and Collins isn't waiting to get his body ready for what happens to be the final year of his rookie contract, already putting in work far ahead of the Cowboys' off-season program. He's hoping for a career season this fall after delivering 3 sacks last season, and if he can remain healthy, he'll have a real shot at hitting the next level. With David Irving no longer in the picture, it'll be Christian Covington placed in Collins' path for the role of starting 3 tech, so let the battle begin. Label this one of more underrated, but intriguing signings for the Cowboys. The 26-year-old lands in North Texas by way of the Houston Texans, where he played after being dual-drafted, in the 6th round of the NFL draft and in the 5th round of the CFL draft the same year, 2015. It's not difficult to surmise why both leagues wanted him, considering the 6'3", 300 lb. Interior specialist was named All-Conference USA as a sophomore at Rice University, and drew comparisons to Pro Bowl talents Michael Bennett and Lorenzo Alexander in pre-draft workouts. Covington, not to be confused with linebacker Chris Covington, who is also on the Cowboys roster, is a big body that can stop the run with ease but also disrupt in the opposing backfield. This makes him an ideal fit in Dallas, particularly now that they've moved on from Irving, and he's ready to push Maliek Collins to the limit. He'll have just 1 year to do it though, and the Cowboys are waiting to see if he can woo them into a re-up in 2020. Hyder is a 3-year veteran who found his way to the NFL by way of the New York Jets, who grabbed him out of the undrafted free agent pool in 2014. He'd go on to be released in August of that year, failing to survive final roster cutdowns, but landed on the Jets' practice squad. Eventually he'd dig his heels in for the Detroit Lions, spending 4 seasons there before satisfying his final contract in 2018. The 27-year-old was a rotational talent in Detroit in his 24 games there, but his 2016 season showed some very real promise, when he broke out to the tune of 8 sacks in only 2 starts with 16 games played. Hyder would find that potential temporarily derailed the following season, when he suffered a torn Achilles and landed on injured reserve, ending his season, registering just 1 sack that year. local product of Texas Tech, the Austin, Texas native is thankful to get another shot in the NFL, and especially in his home state. Also on just a one-year deal, it's low risk for the Cowboys, with the potential for a very high reward. The addition of Quinn is especially important to Hyder, who will battle the former Dolphin, along with Charlton and Crawford, for snaps on the right edge. Ross initially signed with the Cowboys in 2017 on a 2-year, $1 million contract. He has just 19 combined tackles in 16 games, but 5 have been for a loss, and he has 9 hits on the opposing quarterback with 2 sacks. Those are more than solid numbers considering his minimal snap count, and being an exclusive rights free agent in 2019 gave the Cowboys sole discretion to either exercise his option or to let him walk outright, because he wouldn't have had the right to negotiate with other teams unless the latter occurred. They had until March 12 to make their final decision, and chose to keep him on for both depth and his ability to stop the run. Ross may not be a starter, but he's impacted a game or two in his time with the Cowboys. When made inactive to reinsert Charlton into the lineup, the opposing rushing attack saw an uptick in production, and that's a nod to what Ross brings to the table. This is the kind of supporting cast that helps put a defensive line over the top. This is a definite insurance move for the Cowboys. Sheeta is a former undrafted free agent of the rival Philadelphia Eagles, so he lands in Dallas with some insight on the enemy's inner workings. From a football standpoint, he's not been able to achieve much due to a knee injury that saw him land on their injured reserve for the 2017 season, his second in the league. His rookie year was spent on the Eagles' practice squad, but his upside was well noted. Before injury, Sheeta delivered 5 tackles and a sack during the 2018 preseason, in limited duty, and August 2016 saw him land 6 tackles and 1.5 sacks, leading all Eagles defensive tackles at the time. After landing on the Cowboys practice squad on 2 separate occasions for 2018, he now has a contract to hang around a bit longer, but you'd be hard-pressed to see him making the 53-man roster in 2019. He's insurance, yes, but more of the 10-man variety and not the 53-man one.